the big thing that I'm hoping for my research is we can improve the sustainability of the beef, not just beef, but meat in general as well, because it is a very expensive product.
Welcome to the Arkansas Food Farms and Forests podcast, the podcast bringing you the latest on food, fiber, and forestry research from the Arkansas Agricultural Experiment Station, the research arm of the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture.
Welcome to Food, Farms, and Forests. I'm Jennifer Fouch. Today we are learning about food, more specifically meats, and freezing and dry aging. To talk to us about this research is Dr. Deriko Setyabrata, Assistant Professor of Meat Science and Muscle Biology in the Animal Science Department. Dr. Setyabrata, thank you so much for being here with us.
Happy to be here. I'm excited to talk about my research and see what I can help to share and help out.
Yeah, I'm sure we are going to learn a lot, and meats is something we're all always interested in. Food and anything we can consume, especially meats and dry aging, which has become a very popular topic as of late too. And then freezing, which is something we all do all the time. And to be honest, not quite sure if we're doing it correctly. How long should I freeze this meat? Is it still good? Why does it look like that? All of those things consumers have questions about. But you have a couple of research papers going on right now related to freezing meats and consumer perception and quality. Can you tell us about that study and what you're looking into there?
Yeah, definitely. So one of my current study right now that is funded by both the National Cattlemen Beef Associations and the Arkansas Beef Council as well. That study, we're trying to focus on the impact of the different product size during the freezing. For a lot of people now, instead of buying the pre-cuts products that you see in Walmart or something like that, they now are more comfortable purchasing like the big actual whole muscle products, like the one that you find in Sam's Club and things like that. So whole loin, and then they cut them themselves, or they just freeze it the whole thing and then take care of it later on. So looking at that patterns, we're trying to see is like, hey, is there any differences that could potentially impact those quality? We take a look at kind of like three different muscles. So your typical strip loin muscle, the sirloin, and then an eye of round. Just try to see like those are some of the common ones that consumer purchase available for consumers and see how different they are. All in all, what we see is like if you store it as a roast or like a bigger sections, usually the products maintain the quality a little bit better compared to steaks, but overall not much of a difference.
So when you take the steak out compared to the roast and you see the ice on it, it's going to affect how it tastes and how it looks and our perception as consumers, but it doesn't necessarily mean the meat is bad for you, right?
Mm-mm. No, definitely not. I mean, the product itself is still safe flavor wise, even though like the flavor is like, like some from our consumer panel, it is lower, but it is still like on the same range. So like the consumer is giving like the steak about a score of 50, and then the sections about like, or like the roast is about 55. So it is fairly small. It's not much of a difference, but there is a trend of that. So it's something that, maybe people need to be aware if they're doing something with the steak. You can freeze your product as long as you freeze it properly and then you package it properly. You'll probably be fine and your product will still be good. And freezer is still one of the best way to preserve your products. Definitely, I think right now a lot of the issues is, I think I've done it myself as well when we buy something from a retail store in the foam packaging, we just throw it into the freezer. That's definitely the worst way to freeze our products, but that's very easy, right? So I think additional steps, like if you have a vacuum packager at home, you vacuum pack it. I think that will definitely improve your quality, your frozen meat quality. Even if you move it into a Ziploc bag and try to remove as much air as possible, that already helps improving the potential quality of the products following the storage at that point.
Repackaging it, taking it out of the package that you brought it home from the store, either vacuum package, that would be best, or a Ziploc. And how about how long? How long should you leave, say, a piece of steak in the fridge? That would be ideal.
If it's done very properly, like the vacuum packaging done well. Your freezer's pretty good. Product usually, at least from some of the study that's available, they're able to be stored frozen up to like a year or sometimes 2 years. So they are very good. But those are usually on the conditions that, like they have a very good technology. They have very good freezers that able to maintain that temperature well. A lot of the time for us as a consumers, we only have one freezers that also have everything else. So we open and close it all the time. And that actually causes a lot of issues because of the temperature fluctuations. So if you have your product packaged right, I think that will help definitely with that temperature fluctuation. Still, probably, I would say like even half a year or something like that probably is good. But then if you're not packaging your meat properly, probably after a month or so, you'll start a lot of your meat product will have a lot of ice crystals around it. So you can see once you see that it kind of shows that there are some already like quality degradations from that, just because from like the moisture from the ice crystals build up around it. So that's probably some issues. And then probably at that point, I will try to use that meat product as soon as possible. A lot of people have a separate chest freezer or like a freezer that they use just to store frozen product, and they just probably open it once a week or something like that. For something like that, probably you can maintain your product quality a little bit longer. Not much of temperature fluctuations, and if there's nothing inherently bad with your packaging or like from the beginning, I think your product will be okay to store longer than 6 months, something like that.
Another one of your research papers that is fairly recent from 2024 has to do with dry aged beef trimmings in ground beef. Can you talk to us about that study specifically? What were you trying to find, and then what did you find?
So that study was part of my PhD work. So for my PhD, I focus on dry aging, pretty much trying to understand the whole process of it. So dry aging, just in case people don't know, it's a natural process to improve our meat. That was the only way we do aging on meat, how we able to improve the meat quality before we invented the vacuum packager for wet aging. So that's the only way we do it. So it's a traditional process. After the vacuum packaging comes out, it kind of dies down, but then what people realize, there are some flavor differences with the product. So they're figuring out that those coming from the dry aging process. With that, though, we don't actually have a lot of study that kind of explain the dry aging process, what's important, what makes the flavor, how we can control this process. So as part of the study, we're trying to figure that out. The big portions of the paper that was recently published was trying to figure out how to use the waste from dry aging. So from dry aging itself, usually there's a lot of like the surface dries out and we have to trim them out. And those are usually not edible. There's a couple reasons about it. Usually it's very dry. On the other side, sometimes there are mold growth on it that make it hard for us to easily incorporate those trimmings into products. But other than that, when we're cutting the products, there are some discolored area of the meat that are still have the typical properties of meat, and we still have to trim them out. So those are the trims that we are using for the study. I have another study, separate one that actually look at the crust, the dried trimmings, and this one is just the regular lean trims. But both of the study, pretty much the idea is trying to find a way to reduce the waste from dry aging, because it is an expensive process, and then the trimming process makes it even more expensive. In that project, include them into ground beef. So we're trying to take a look at the impacts of the lean itself, and also we have the fat portions that has to go through different dry aging methods. And then from there, we combine them, and we're trying to see what kind of improvement we can see from the final meat products. And from what we see, we did see there are some improvement with the additionals of the trimmings. It's not a lot, but in this study, we include the trims and the fat. And then something interesting that we see from here is that the lean portion is actually more important in potentially bringing out the dry aged flavor compared to the fat.
How do you hope your research will impact the beef industry and consumer experiences?
So I think the big thing that I'm hoping for my research is we can improve the sustainability of the beef, or like not just beef, but meat in general as well, because it is a very expensive products. I mean, it is expensive process. We have to take care of the animals, and then from that we have the products, and we have to take care of the products. And then at that point, there's a lot of money and energy and efforts that it's been placed into the products, and then suddenly we miss the day, and then the product discolored, and we have to discount it or throw it away. So that is such a sad condition. So I want to make sure I'm trying to focus on how we can improve that, not just helping for like the meat itself, but then the farmers, the beef producers, how we can help them as well.
Yeah, seeing how everything comes full circle and how everything is connected, that farm to table cycle. Dr. Setyabrata, I really appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge with us and your ongoing projects.
No, happy to do it. Happy to do it. Thank you.
That was Dr. Deriko Setyabrata, Assistant Professor of Meat Science and Muscle Biology in the Animal Science Department, talking to us about his latest research into meat freezing and dry aging. Thanks for listening. I'm Jennifer Fouch. Don't forget to subscribe.
The Arkansas Food Farms and Forests podcast is produced by the Arkansas Agricultural Experiment Station, the research arm of the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture. Visit aaes.uada.edu for more information.